Once upon a time, in a peaceful village nestled between rolling hills, there lived an elderly woman who was known by all for her radiant smile and unwavering joy. Though the village wasn't wealthy, its people were rich in spirit, and so was she. Her home was modest, yet she always seemed to be filled with warmth and kindness, no matter what the day brought. People from all around came to her for advice, to share their struggles, or simply to talk. They would often ask her how she could remain so happy and content despite life's ups and downs. One bright morning, a young man who had recently moved to the village approached her, intrigued by her optimism. "I've seen you around for a while," he said, "and I've always wondered, how is it that you seem so happy, no matter what's going on? Doesn't life get hard sometimes? Don't you ever feel down?" The elderly woman paused for a moment, then smiled softly, her eyes reflecting years of experience. "Ah, my dear, life is full of moments, both good and bad," she said, in a voice full of peace. "There are days when everything feels just right, and other days when it feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. But over the years, I've learned a very important truth. True happiness doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within." The young man raised an eyebrow, unsure of what she meant. "But how is that possible?" he asked. "How can you stay happy when things go wrong?" The old woman motioned for him to sit beside her and began to share a story from her own past. "Let me tell you about a time when life was very difficult for me," she said. "Many years ago, I had a family, a loving husband and children. We weren't rich by any means, but we had enough to be content. However, one day, my husband fell ill. The doctors said there was nothing more they could do, and we didn't have the means to buy the medicine he needed. Despite all our efforts, my husband passed away. That was the hardest day of my life." The young man listened intently as the old woman's voice became a little softer. "I cried for days," she continued, her eyes distant, as if remembering those painful times. "It felt like the world had ended. I thought I would never be happy again. I had lost the one person I loved the most, and nothing seemed worth smiling about. But eventually, I realized something very important." She paused and looked at the young man. You see, staying sad all the time wasn't going to bring him back. My children needed me, and I had to find a way to carry on. Little by little, I began to change the way I looked at things. Life, I learned, is a mix of good and bad. But it's how we respond to those moments that shapes us. I decided that I wouldn't let the bad times steal my joy. The young man sat quietly, processing her words. "But how did you manage to do that?" he asked. "How did you find a way to be happy again?" The old woman's face brightened, and she leaned in slightly, her voice warm with wisdom. "Every morning, when I woke up, I would say to myself, 'Today is a new day, and I will find something to be thankful for, something to be happy about.' Even on the toughest days, I made it a point to notice the little things. Perhaps the sun shining through my window, or the sound of birds singing outside, or even a smile from a stranger. There's always something to be grateful for, no matter how small it seems." The young man was thoughtful. "But what if something truly terrible happens? Can you still find happiness then?" The elderly woman nodded slowly. "It's not easy, my dear. But I've learned that everything in life is temporary. Even the bad moments won't last forever. When something bad happens, I remind myself that it too shall pass. And no matter how difficult things might seem, I focus on the good things I still have. Maybe it's my health, my family, or even just the fact that I am still alive to experience another day." She smiled gently at him. "Happiness is a choice. You can choose to dwell on the bad, or you can choose to find the good. It's not always easy, but it's always possible. The young man was deeply moved by her words. "Thank you for sharing this with me," he said. "I've learned so much. I think I'll try to look for the good in every situation, just like you." From that day on, the young man made a conscious effort to focus on the positives in his life. Whenever something went wrong, he would remember the old woman's advice and search for something to be grateful for. Slowly but surely, he began to notice a change in his own outlook. Even when things didn't go as planned, he found it easier to stay positive and appreciate the small blessings in his life. As time passed, the old woman's wisdom spread throughout the village. More and more people began to realize that happiness isn't about what happens to us, but how we choose to view the world. They learned to be grateful for the little moments, the small victories, and the everyday blessings that often go unnoticed. In the end, the village became a place of peace and contentment, where people supported each other through both the good times and the bad. Thanks to the old woman, they had learned the true secret to happiness. It comes from within, and it's always there, waiting to be found, no matter what life throws our way. And so, the village thrived, not because of its material wealth, but because its people had learned the most valuable lesson of all, that happiness is a choice, and it's always within our reach if we know where to look, too.